With his first place victory over Hungrybox at Smash and Splash 4, Armada marked his 20th victory at a major event in his illustrious Melee career. And on the smaller scale, this victory has also called into question if Plup should still be considered the second best player behind Hungrybox now that Armada also has a super major win under his belt. So with this video, we're going to take a look at the three major aspects of the debate and give you all of the information you're going to need to make an informed decision on who you currently think should be ranked number 2 in the world. First off, let's take a look at how each player is placed at the major events they have attended this year. We can see that Plup has been remarkably consistent throughout the year, as he has only lost to Hungrybox at major events besides Summit, which is an event he has historically performed poorly at. Armada's year looks consistent as well, with him not placing lower than 4th so far this year, with his losses also being spread across 4 players, although much more evenly than Plup. If you want to determine the winner in this aspect just by average placing, Armada barely edges out Plup by a measly 0.2, but that metric, and just looking at placings in general, gets rid of a lot of the nuance required in valuing a performance. I personally give the slight victory here to Plup, because to me, only losing to the best player in the world at nearly every event you've attended so far this year outweighs a loss to Zane, the only not top 6 player on this chart. Next up, let's zoom in on each player's super major win to see if one could be ruled more impressive than the other. Let's start with Plup's win at Genesis 5 that started off the 2018 season of Melee with a bang. Here he beat Mango to get into top 8, defeated the defending Genesis champion to make it in the winners finals, and knocked into losers, and eventually defeated 2017's number 1 player to become the 3rd player ever to win Genesis. Up against that is Armada's impressive run through losers at Smash and Splash 4. After being set into losers and winners semis by Leffen, who's had his numbers so far this year, he easily handled Zane, finally beat Mewtwo for the first time since GTX last year, won his rematch with Leffen, and became the first person to defeat Hungrybox from loser's side of Grand Finals since DreamHack Austin in 2016. So then which of these runs comes out on top? Again, it's so close. Both were really important events for each player on different scales. Plup's Genesis 5 win definitively proved that he could win a super major. Armada's Smash and Splash win not only marked 3 set wins for him in a row against Hungrybox, but also broke his losing streak against 2 of his biggest demons so far this year, Leffen and Mewtwo. But looking strictly at the numbers, I'd give it to Plup again by a super slight margin, with him having better top 3 wins and a better loss. The last way we're going to compare these two players is by their head-to-head records at the highest level of play so far this year. Across the top 6, these players split the advantage 2-2, with Plup and Armada also being tied 1-1 in their head-to-head in 2018. However, when you add up their sets to get their total win rate against the top 6 at majors, Plup comes out with just a 1 game and 3% edge over Armada, which is just another way that shows just how close these guys are to each other this year. Armada does hold the lead over Plup in the 7-50 category, also by 1 set, thanks to Plup's loss to Zane at Summit 6. This then leaves us with a tie at 3 rows apiece for each player. So then the question essentially comes down to what you think is more valuable. Having a better record against Hungrybox, or having a better record against the rest of the top 6. And while I think Armada's record against Hungrybox is a much more valuable asset for winning majors moving forward in the year, I think Plup deserves the win in this category for only consistently losing to Hungrybox this year, whereas Armada has struggled versus both Mewtwo and Leffen. So with all that being said, I think you'd probably guess that I'd say Plup earns the number 2 spot for 2018 so far this year. They're honestly so close to each other, and I totally understand how valuing aspects slightly differently than I do, or looking at the stats from a different perspective, could have someone giving the nod to Armada instead. I will say this though, I think Armada will end up ranked higher than Plup at the end of the year, and I also think Armada has a better shot than Plup to steal the number 1 crown away from Hungrybox for 2018. But if the year ended today, I'd have to give the 2nd place spot to Plup by a hair. And yeah, that's about it for this video. I wanted to end it off with a bit of an epilogue talking about the Melee It On Me question, the question that's posed for the ballot at the end of the year, which I'll read right here. Based on the quality and quantity of results in 2018, rate each player on a scale from 1 to 10. Imagine if everyone entered a tournament 100 times, who would perform the best? So there's a weird, like with that last comment that I had, that I think Armada is going to be the best at the end of the year. And why I still give the edge to Plup, I kind of want to explain myself, is that if we just look at the stats right now, I think Plup shows that tiny bit of edge over Armada. But if we see Armada like beating Leffen, beating Mewtwo and beating Hungrybox 2 times in a row, I think that's really good for a trend moving forward. Like, I think in 3 or 6 more months, if Armada continues this trend, it'll be a clear Armada over Plup, or even Armada over Hungrybox if he goes really crazy. But the reason I'm inclined to give it to Plup is if like I said, if we cut off the year right now, the stat sheets that we have, I think that shows Plup being a little bit better. But that's about it. I hope you guys have a fun time in the comments debating with each other about how it falls. Maybe it will be as clear-cut as I think it is. Actually, no, I don't think it's that clear-cut. But from my perspective, I definitely have a strong feeling that Plup is the number 2 right now. But as I was saying, I hope you guys have a fun time not hurting each other and having a nice civil discussion down in the comments and over on Reddit. And I've been SaveAsUntitled. If you enjoyed, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to me on Patreon, subscribe to me here. All those buttons are down in the description. And I will see you guys next time.